Okay, so our next speaker is from the UK. His name is Darren. Are you here?
I am. Hi. Hey, Angela.
Hi. Hi. Oops, hold on, let me spotlight you here. Um, so Darren, okay, so Darren's from the UK. I'm British, but I'm sort of fake British because I was raised here, but became my husband would say I'm not really British, but I've got the passport to prove it. Um,
The no accent.
no, no, you don't want to hear my British accent. It's not great. Um, so for those of you who have studied in the UK, feel like Darren has an interesting point of view here from making the the UK to US jump. Because at least for me in my mind, even though I knew there were differences in US and UK law and in differences in the US and UK, I just thought things would be sort of samey, but they weren't. So you went to Suffolk for your LLM,
I
right?
did. I did. Long time ago. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it's all right. Can you just go over like how you did the
Yeah.
jump and what you did and what brought you over?
No, I'd be happy to. Thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here. And everyone's touched on like so many important points that, that I would have certainly kind of at least referenced in some parts. So I'll try and reaffirm, I guess, some of the things that we've talked about. But no, it's great to be here. And lots of people helped me when I first moved here. So I feel like, as Rachel said right at the beginning, it's super important to kind of help everyone paying it forward as well. Yeah, so and I feel like I'm just going to be like everyone's been giving valuable advice previously. I'm just going to talk about myself, which I'm totally fine with. Let me get that straight, but maybe I'll throw some kind of wisdom in there as well. So I've been in Boston for the last 18 years almost. My wife is American, and that's what brought me over here. We met a long time ago at a summer camp up in Maine, and she moved into the UK. I did my LLB in the UK. I practiced in the UK for a few years, and then we decided to relocate to Boston and kind of settle here, which is where I'm at right now. I'm just north of Boston right now.
Sorry,
Um,
I'm sorry to interrupt. So in the UK, so you went the solicitor route
I
and
did.
you did your TC training contract.
I did my LPC. That's right. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
I should have gone the barrister route to get some hair, I guess, but we'll ignore that part. No, yeah, I wanted to be a solicitor. I didn't want to be a barrister. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the UK kind of jurisprudence, barristers have rights of audience, kind of like like trial lawyers, whereas solicitors are kind of more your general practitioner, kind of do all sorts. So that's what I did. I worked in a kind of smaller boutique firm in London. Did all sorts, did litigation, employment law, real estate, really kind of a jack of all trades, M&A, but kind of a more localized level. So it was a really good grounding for me to become a lawyer, just generally speaking. And then when I decided to move to the US, kind of had to figure out what I wanted to do, and that's kind of obviously the start of kind of thinking about what my career would look like here. And corporate M&A commercial was the easiest thing to do. Kind of back to your original kind of comment about samey. Litigation or kind of more localized type law would have been harder to kind of get into, I think. Not impossible, but we can kind of talk more about that. But when I moved to Boston, really hadn't done the research about what was required, and LLMs. I'm sure we're all kind of familiar with. Every state has its own requirements about what eligibility you need to sit for the local bar exam. And this was back 18 years ago. So the bar exam was the rules to sit the bar exam were very different. And when I first came here, the Board of Bar Examiners told me I needed to have a JD, even though other lawyers from the UK who had similar academic kind of eligibility as I did, but had more kind of tenure, as a practicing lawyer had kind of different things, and it was kind of very arbitrary in the way in which the BBE kind of administered its discretion.
Was this the Boston bar? Or sorry, the Massachusetts bar?
The Board of Bar Examiners, which is the mass agency
Okay.
that deals with admission of lawyers. Yeah. So at that point, I didn't know, I wasn't going to go back to law school to sit at JD. So I was kind of figuring out like whether I wanted to actually do something completely different. And when you do an LLB, you do it as an undergrad, and that's all I really known was being a lawyer. So it was a very interesting time about kind of what do I want to do for a career. So it was definitely challenging for sure. I'd also got a job at that point as a corporate paralegal, again just to try and get something, because I needed to work obviously and pay the bills. So I was working for a mid-sized firm in Boston as a corporate paralegal, but they knew that I was a lawyer from a different country, so they were giving me all sorts of work, and it was definitely a really good experience regardless of my title. So kind of lesson one is kind of if you're not able to get the title that you want, I would kind of focus on the work that you're going to do more so, because that's going to be more important for your happiness ultimately, and you can figure everything else out as you go forward. Anyway, around that same time, a Nigerian lawyer who kind of became like this rock star in the foreign lawyer community in Boston applied to sit for the bar exam in Massachusetts, and they rejected him. And he was a Nigerian lawyer who was also barred in Trinidad and Tobago, barred in New York, barred in Connecticut, but didn't have enough years to kind of wave into Massachusetts. And when he applied to sit for the bar exam, they denied him. So he brought a lawsuit against the BBE and the Supreme Judicial Court in Massachusetts, which is the highest court here in the state. They have sole kind of jurisdiction over admission of lawyers. They heard the case. Initially, it was a single justice who denied the petition, and he appealed that, and it went to the full court. And as a consequence of that lawsuit, the law was changed. So he became kind of like this huge figure in the legal community from a foreign lawyer perspective. So anyway, day after that decision came down, I sent a letter in saying, if you don't reconsider my application, I will be filing a lawsuit tomorrow. And 24 hours later, I got an email from the executive director. Her name was Elaine Petrie, I think her name was, saying that we've reconsidered your application and you can do 3 courses to sit for the bar exam.
That's amazing.
I know it was. It was kind of like just complete sea change, complete 180 from where my life had been 6 months prior. So
wow,
super cool. Yeah. So it's a big change. So they basically clarified the law. They took away the discretion from the Board of Bar Examiners and made it a bit more prescriptive about what was required. And they basically distinguished between common law lawyers and civil law lawyers as to what was required. They gave a bit more favoritism to common law lawyers just because obviously this is a common law jurisdiction. And made it a bit more burdensome for civil law lawyers. Not impossible, but just the requirements to sit for the bar exam.
Did you waive it, or were you able to take the bar?
I sat for the bar exam, but the 3 courses that I need, it was UCC, Intro to American Law, and Con Law. This was in March time. I got that letter back from the executive director. So that was in March. All 3 courses weren't being offered until the start of the school year. So I actually ended up enrolling in the spring semester for an LLM. That's kind of what precipitated my LLM enrollment. So rather than kind of matriculate with just 3 courses and not actually have anything to my name, I ended up getting a full LLM at Suffolk because they had a night program. So around that same time, I was a corporate paralegal. I got the letter from the Board of Bar Examiners saying I could sit for the bar exam. And then I ended up getting a corporate associate role at Ropes and Gray, where I was for 5 years while I was kind of doing the LLM. So was
that the same place where you were the paralegal?
No, I was at a mid-sized firm called Hinckley Allen at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a weird rule about not hiring paralegals to become associates. So once I
Oh,
knew that
okay.
I could sit for the bar exam, and I told them, what the plan was, they were like, "Yeah, this is not going to happen for you here, but good luck." So,
Wow, wow. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. But again, everything happens for a reason, and it was a great experience. I won't kind of say anything else than that. It was a really good intro to corporate law in the US, which I really appreciated, and it really kind of gave me a good grounding in kind of how to move forward as well. So ended up being at Ropes for 5 years, which was fantastic. It was kind of a crazy time when the economy was crazy and all sorts were going on. And that kind of 18 months where I was doing the LLM and not admitted yet, Ropes didn't really know how to deal with me. So I had like 5 different titles. I was like foreign lawyer, international lawyer, foreign associate. Like it was all these weird titles, and it sounded like I had a helicopter waiting for me at any given moment to kind of just kind of go somewhere exotic. But really good experience, and that role really came out of kind of I'll like I said, just reference kind of the networking piece of how important it is to kind of get involved here locally. Boston has a pretty robust bar association, and they have an international kind of section within the bar association, and then they have a subsection called the Foreign Lawyers Committee. So that's how I initially got involved in Boston. I met someone who had kind of helped me think through the issues that they had gone through when they applied for the Board of Bar Examiners. And I started to kind of get involved and volunteer and kind of do kind of just helping out wherever I could, basically. And ultimately met a partner at Ropes that knew that we were hiring for some associates, and he said, "Hey, why don't you apply? Send me a resume." And that kind of set me off. The rest is history. It certainly is who you know for sure. So people want to see that you can add value and see that you're a doer. So I really recommend kind of getting stuck in as much as possible where the opportunity to present themselves, because that's going to set you apart from your peers.
Yeah, that all sounds really great. How did you traverse? Because there's some things that I know that the US, like law in the US and law in the UK, have in common. Like there's a tremendous amount of snobbery and elitism. I picked up on that more in the UK, but also it's quite there in the US. But
Sure.
there are just some cultural differences in terms of how things are done. Um, how are you able to traverse that?
Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason I left the UK. Actually, was I was happy to leave the UK. It was like I never felt really part of that society, so to speak. So it was quite refreshing to come here in some respects and actually kind of be a bit more unseen, so to speak, and not have to kind of rely on my education, my background, my culture to kind of get ahead. So it was more about just kind of persevering personally. But from a professional perspective, at least from substantively, I think corporate and M&A law are the easiest to kind of make the bridge, right? Because ultimately there's no real local law issues that you have to worry about when you're getting a deal done. Yes, there are local law issues if you're in a dispute and you have to kind of figure out, what the case law might be as it relates to the disputed issue. But just to getting the deal done itself, it's just a contract. You choose the governing law, you choose the venue, and then obviously if you have operations in certain jurisdictions. So a lot of the work that I've done has always been cross-border and involved kind of multiple jurisdictions. So from that perspective, I've felt very comfortable in kind of the work that I've done. And it's translated into any jurisdiction regardless. Obviously there are local issues that you have to think about and kind of cultural sensitivities that we've also talked about that you have to be considerate of. But at the same time, when somebody wants to get a deal done, that's really the focus rather than kind of the nuances as such. So those are more just considerations that you bear in mind, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I I didn't realize how fascinating it was.
I won't go that far, but no, listen, I'm happy to talk. Again, I teach at Suffolk and I teach at New England law locally. So for those in Boston or looking to reach out, I'm happy to always talk and help.
Oh, have you connected with Caroline, or does she know?
I just heard Carolina's story about Suffolk, no, so I didn't know that. But yeah, I teach negotiation at Suffolk, which I'll be teaching this coming fall semester. And yeah, no, I'm psyched. I'm psyched. It's kind of very full circle as well to kind of do an LLM and then be teaching there as well. So it's great. But yeah, so happy to help. If anyone has questions, please do reach out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Darren.
No, thank you.